Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I got asked an interesting question by one of my longest term subscribers ever. When I say longest term, I'm talking like one of my first 20 subscribers ever on my original channel. He said, hey, when should we be adding weight to our body weight exercises like pull-ups, dips, whatever? Right? Because people will say stuff like that. They'll say stuff like, if you can't do X amount of pull-ups, you have no business adding weight, right? You have no business adding weight. You know how absurd that sounds? You know how absurd that sounds? So there's something magical about pull-ups. Well, there is actually. I think pull-ups are an amazing exercise. I do them every one of my training sessions right now. I think they're one of the best exercises ever invented. So yeah, there is something magical about pull-ups. Don't get me wrong. But to be fair, body weight pull-ups aren't that impressive if you're not 300 pounds. I don't care how many of them you do. It's just not that big of a deal. They need to be weighted. So, we come over to this question, but what is so magical about these exercises that you need to reach a certain number of reps before you add weight? Does anyone program any other big exercise that way? I want people to really think about that as we get into this discussion. Does anybody program the squat that way for your athletes or your clients? Right? If you're a coach or a trainer, do you program the barbell squat that way? Do you program the bench press that way? Like, do you say going into it, because a person's body weight is a set weight. Let's say they weigh 150 pounds. I don't know. Do you ever tell someone until you can squat 150 pounds for X amount of weight, we're not going to even add any microplates? Is that a standard protocol, like just a rule across the board? Of course not. If we were to say that with any big barbell exercise or dumbbell exercise or anything else, if we were to come up with such silly ass rules, we would be made fun of, right? So why do we do that with pull-ups and dips and things? In other words, aren't we trying to reach a target amount of weight and reps and sets? Meaning our training is programmed, right? So if your programming calls for doing 3 sets of 5, like, let's say that's what I'm doing right now. 3 sets of 5, right? Just picking that. And you can do 7 and 8 reps on a pull-up or a dip. But you can't do 10 or 12 or 15 or whatever the magic number you've been given is. Would you not add weight? Like, are you going to stand there and say, okay, well, my programming calls for on a big exercise. Let's say you've replaced the barbell row with the weighted pull-up in a program, right? You've got a program that's got programming written for a barbell row or just for any back pull, right? And you decide to use the pull-up. Are you going to completely ignore the programming and progression because it's a magical body weight exercise that you have to hit X target number of reps before you add weight? Or are you going to add enough weight to get to the target reps and sets? And everyone acts like they need to make big weight jumps on these too, right? Did you guys just see me with a 5-pound plate? Right? Well, some of these I got a 5-pound plate added to the 45. Why? Because that puts me in my target rep range, my target intensity for my target volume. Now, we could argue, man, you could just use one of your 55s and got it 5 more pounds. Yeah, but what if I missed a rep and I didn't hit my target numbers? That's the equivalent of somewhat micro-loading, right? If you throw a 5-pound plate onto your weighted dips, your weighted pull-ups, isn't that equivalent of adding a 2.5 to each side on a barbell lift? Of course it is. Of course it is. And it's funny how people get with this stuff. You'll micro-load a bench press or an overhead press or a squat or a deadlift. You talk about an exercise, you're talking about micro-loading a deadlift. We're getting tit for tat, aren't we? But people don't want to micro-load a pull-up, a chin-up, a dip, a glute ham raise, right? No, because these are callous in their body weight exercises. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, your microplates can be used on them. I know it sounds amazing, right? It's a novel concept for a lot of people, but you can use your microplates on your bodyweight exercises. In other words, if you're trying to do 3 sets of 5 or 3 sets of 8 or whatever, and you're coming up a rep high with just your body weight, couldn't you use one of your 2.5s? Or a 5? I know people are like, are you seriously telling people to add a 2.5 pound or a 5 pound plate to a belt just by itself? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. If your training program calls for 3 sets of 8 and you can do 3 sets of 9, you need to add 2.5 or 5 pounds to that lift. Does it really matter that it's a pull-up? You'll do it on a barbell row, so why wouldn't you do it on a pull-up? And people will say, oh my God, you're going to look silly with a 2.5 pound plate. I don't know, we'll stick it in your pocket then. I don't know, hold it between your teeth. Actually, don't hold it between your teeth. You might hit it on the bar on the way up. Might need dental work, so scratch that. All right? But you do see the point, right? You load them like any other exercise. And this ludicrous idea that you need to do that. And the reason people say that is because oftentimes people who can only do a few pull-ups or dips with proper range of motion, let's say the dead hang on the pull-up, right? Because if you're not going all the way down, I don't want to see it. I don't give a shit that you do your first 3 reps with full range of motion and then you start short stroking your pull-ups and you get to 12. No one cares. You're not doing the full exercise. You're not getting the full bicep benefits. You're not getting the full tricep benefits. You're not getting the full upper chest benefits. This is a big exercise. If you think that pull-ups are done for your lats, instead of realizing that it's a bicep, a brachialis, a radial brachialis, a rear delt, a long head of the tricep, a pectoralis minor exercise, then I don't know why you're bothering doing it. It's an amazing exercise because it works enormous amounts of muscle in your upper body. That is why the weighted pull-up or the weighted chin-up is such a damn good exercise. It works more muscles than than most other upper body lifts. That's what makes it magical and special. So many stabilizers and smaller muscles get recruited enormously that it will put size and strength on your upper body very effectively. So, if you're skipping the bottom, you're missing some of those really important muscles. I mean, and who in the hell doesn't want more bicep? Dudes skip the bottom on a pull-up, and then they'll go do curls. Or they'll do a tricep extension for the long head, and it's like, well, why didn't you do more of the work for those on your pull-up? Well, because my ego, I couldn't do as many reps. I had to go all the way down. That's exactly what it is. They can't do as many reps if they have to go all the way down. They're missing out the benefits of the exercise. So that is but realistically, that's why people say that, because a lot of people can't do the full range of motion. As soon as they start adding weight, what happens? They start cutting the range of motion further. They start doing 2/3 reps. All right? That 20 degree of elbow bend still happening at the bottom. Trying to keep the shoulders packed. Yeah, that's why. That's why people say that. But the truth is, if you can do them with full range of motion, we should be adding weight to these big body weight exercises as soon as you are physically strong enough to add X amount of weight for your target programming. We program barbell exercises around reps and sets and intensity, and that includes micro-loading, sometimes adding 1 pound or getting 2.5 pounds added because you have a micro plates, pound and a quarter plates on each side, or adding a 2.5 to each side to get a 5. Why wouldn't you do 2.5 and 5 pound jumps on these to drop 1 rep off? It's ridiculous. All right, these are big exercises. Program them accordingly. And I think people get caught up in this minutia. Because it's a calisthenics type movement, you really need to build your body weight base first. Well, yeah, you do, but that's only because that's the amount of weight there. A lot of people aren't strong enough to do them with their body weight. Maybe you're fat, maybe you're weak. Well, we do them with bands. Don't we do bands underneath them a lot of times to create an assistance? I'd recommend that over an assistance machine. Yeah, because that's what you need to do to hit your target numbers at your given body weight. Why wouldn't you do the same thing for overload? If you're doing sets of 5 and you're only strong enough to do sets of 8, do you really need to get strong enough to do sets of 10 before you add weight? No, you add the weight to get down to your target rep range as long as you can do full range of motion in good form with the added weight. That's how I view it. Program it like anything else. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.